All right, there's a few things I've got to cover because it's been a few weeks since we met. And let me start with the RPA, because that's the genesis of most of our activities. This and listing agreements are our primary legal documents. So a couple things came up in the RPA in the past couple weeks. One had to do with this G1. Let's see. No, was it that one? No. Sale of buyer's property. I think we're going to see more of this moving ahead. It's there's so little inventory that for a buyer, a buyer wants to move up or move down or side or whatever they want to do. They may have a property to sell, and that's okay. We shouldn't discourage that. I mean, ideally, we'd like to have their property in escrow before we write an offer, because then we can write a stronger offer. But not necessarily. I've bought at least 2 of my properties over the years, contingent on my selling the property I was in existing. So we're going to use the CAR form COP if our buyer has a property to sell, and I'll go directly to that in a minute. The other thing that comes up, because it's new, is this paragraph G3. And this says the seller agrees to pay the obligation of the buyer to compensate buyer's broker under a separate agreement, the SPBB attached. Seller's brokers offer, if any, to compensate buyer's broker is unaffected unless otherwise agreed. So you would only check this box if you have a buyer broker agreement, BRE form with your buyer. And you would want that if the listing you're looking at does not share a commission, doesn't have a reasonable offer to the selling broker. So, and we're going to see more use of the BRE. We just did our training on Tuesday in Sonoma, almost exclusively on using the BRE, because I think we're just going to see more use of it. There's lawsuits at the federal level that are pending, and there's things going on that are pushing us down that path. So anyway, don't check this box if the offer to cooperating CSO in the listing is typical and reasonable. You're going to get paid through that means. You would only check this if you have a buyer broker agreement, and then you would attach the SPBB. Any questions on that? Okay. Let me go back up then, and let's jump over to the COP. Back and so we had a client who did have their existing home in escrow down in Davis, and they were wanting to buy a property up here in Santa Rosa. So this COP form was used. And this has several options in it. So this can be a little bit complicated form. So the first option is the buyer's property contingency. This agreement is contingent upon the buyer entering into a contract for the sale of and closing escrow on the buyer's property. And then you have options here, B, 1B, only entering into a contract for the sale, but that wouldn't mean closing. or only on the close of the buyer's property, which is already an escrow with blank, 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 blank. So in this case, we chose option C because the property was in escrow with a title company and escrow number, you know, and a copy. This is part I actually had skipped over in the past, but it says a copy of the contract for sale of the buyer's property and the contact information and escrow number for the sale, collectively the escrow evidence, is attached to the COP form. Or, and then you could check the box, will be delivered to the seller within 2 days after acceptance. So we had these forms. We had the copy of the buyer's contract for the sale of their property, and we had the contact information for the escrow number and the escrow number. So we attached those to the offer along with the COP. So that was the attachment here was the part that I kind of had skipped over. And, when the agent said, should I attach these things? And I said, well, I don't know. You don't really know. And she said, well, it says I should. And I said, well, yeah, it does say that, doesn't it? So, yeah, you should attach it. Now, if your property's we go on to paragraph 2, and it says buyer entering into contract for sale of buyer's property if either 1A or 1B are checked, then you would complete this paragraph. And 3 would say the buyer, if it's listed or not, and you could list, say you choose this option where it shall be listed within 3 days. This is the weakest one where you don't have a listing. Our buyer hasn't even listed their property for sale yet. And in most circumstances, that's not going to fly. Here's other important clauses in here. The seller's right to take backup offers is always an issue. The 2 is often chosen that there's a delay right to notify the buyer no earlier than 17 days or 30 days, whatever you want to put. Because if you don't check 2 or 3 here, 7, 2 or 3, if the seller gets a backup offer, they can immediately come to you and say, your buyer needs to perform within 2 days and remove their contingency, or we're going to cancel that and take the other offer. So, there's important stuff on that form. If you happen to be working with a buyer who has a property to sell and you're going to be using the COP, please check with me or Randy or your manager, and we can all confirm that we got it right. Okay. Any questions on the COP?
I have a question. So when someone it's not in contract, but you do want it contingent upon the close, then you complete is that where you do that number 4?
So it's not in contract yet?
So if it's not in contract, so they need to get in contract, and you want it to be, they want to be able to close, they need the funds.
Right. So 1A would apply, the buyer entering into the contract for the sale of and closing on the property. Paragraphs 2 and 4. And then paragraph 2, you would fill out about how many days they have to accept a property, accept an offer.
Okay. And then what's
yeah. And then 4 says it's subject to the close. Yeah.
Okay.
So you wouldn't check any of the B or C, 1B or C. You would deal with number 2. If it is listed, you wouldn't have to deal, if 1A or B applies, you wouldn't check this. It's already listed, and you put in the listing number. And then the close of escrow is in 4.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, no. All right, so I'm going to move on to the TDS. And this is something we've dealt with in the past, but it comes up from time to time. So let me take a look here. TDS. Okay. Now, remember, this form is not to be filled out by us. In fact, we can't fill it out. You know, these boxes won't check if we try to check them. This is to be filled out by our seller. But we can counsel our seller about how to do it. In fact, there's a CAR Q&A about filling out the TDS and advising our clients. So if you want to dig a little deeper, you can either check on the CAR Q&As or into our broker risk management. They have a number of weekly practice tips on completing the TDS. But this comes up frequently, this first part under number 1, coordination with other disclosure forms. So there's this term substituted disclosures. The following disclosures and other disclosures required by law, including the NHD, that may include airport annoyances, blah, 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 have or will be made in connection with this real estate transfer and are intended to satisfy this disclosure obligations on this form when that's where that matter is the same, subject matter is the same. So we like the to check box number 1 there, where it says the inspection reports completed pursuant to the contract of sale or receipt for deposit. And that means that the seller is saying any inspection reports you get, Mr. Buyer, are part of my disclosure. So if there's something in your reports that I wasn't aware of, and it's now I'm aware of it and I'm disclosing it. And that's important because we have a case right now where the buyer moved in, and it's about 6 months later. We had a lot of rains, right? You know, we had kind of record rainfall, and some of these rains caused some drainage issues on the property that the seller hadn't been aware of because we hadn't had rains, you know, for 6 years or so, and so there was water running under the house, and when they went under the house, there was dry rot under the house, and you know, various things going on. So what happened was the buyer comes back and wants $76,000 from the seller and the agents because of lack of disclosure. Well, when we looked at the reports, the the agent did their proper duty of disclosing the what they should have. The buyer tried to claim that the agent didn't go under the house and discover the rot that was under the house. Well, are we obligated to go under a house? No. So that was kind of spurious. Sorry, I'm just fiddling around here. Let me stop that. Yeah, so and there were other claims in the buyer's letter that were covered here. So the inspection reports, the buyer's own inspection reports, pointed out some of these issues. And the buyer didn't, you know, request for repairs or didn't act on them at that time. And since this one is checked, the seller can go back and say, hey, listen, that was pointed out in your inspection report, and that becomes part of my disclosure, so I disclosed it. Okay, so that's a good thing. 2, if there are additional inspection reports or disclosures, that is, the buyer, the seller has a file of their old inspections or reports, or we, because we dealt with the property, you know, before, and we happen to have inspection reports or disclosures, we check the second box here and we identify them, you know, pest report dated blank to blank by such and such company. home inspection by blank and blank of such date, things like that. The thing we least want to do is have the seller just check number 3, which is no substituted disclosures. And that is they aren't having the buyer's inspections be part of the disclosure, and they aren't providing any additional reports. Now, why anyone would ever check that, I don't know, but we strongly would discourage our seller from, explain to them the advantage of checking that box number 1. I've seen situations where all 3 boxes have been checked, and that doesn't make any sense, does it? So that's kind of the story on the TDS that came up in the past week. Any questions on that?
I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Hi, Sherry.
Okay. Hi, good morning. So in this particular, you got me curious, in this particular case, was there an actual inspection and pest report, or was it just what the agent? Oh, wow. And still, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
the inspectors didn't know that water would run under the house during a heavy rain. There was no evidence of that. I had a house in Kenwood once that in heavy rains, it was a rocky surface there, and the water would percolate up out of the rocks and drain out the bottom, under the crawl space. And there was no harm, no foul, but we weren't aware of it until we had a heavy rain. It didn't really cause any issues. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Yeah, some things you don't know until they happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I always tell
Sense.
buyers the winter is a great time to buy a house, because when it's raining, you see the worst things.
Right. Okay, a couple other things that aren't related to the forms. A question came up this week about whether an agent could give a gift to someone who referred them a client. And the law does allow for an agent to give a gift to someone for a referral. They can give a gift to someone just because they like them. They can take $500 or whatever they want and just give it to the person because they like them. But one reason to like us, and they gave you a referral. Now, what we can't do is advertise this as a business practice. We can't. I've seen in the past someone put in the paper, an agent put in the paper, $500 for referring me a client. Well, that is strictly illegal. Can't do that. Can't even say to your friends as a business practice, hey, refer me a client and I'll give you $500. That's a business practice, and it can't be a business practice. It can be an incidental gift that you just want to express appreciation to the person for having thought of you. It can't be expressed as a percentage of the purchase price or a percentage of your commission. You can't say, I'm going to give you 10% of my commission if you refer me a client. You can't do that. Okay. Now you can give them a gift of whatever you want. And the gift, by the way, comes after the close of escrow and after you've been paid. The company doesn't participate in that gift. That's just your decision to give someone a gift. All right. So it's okay to give gifts, but it can't be an advertised or publicized business practice in order to try to gain business. Okay. Is that understood? Okay. Good.
I do have go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, it's not having to do with a gift, but you two know both that I'm doing the 100 Days to Greatness. So I have a friend who's an old daycare parent, whatever. He just started up a carpet cleaning business. And you know how we're supposed to do the video, a short video this week? Is it legal for me to team up with him and be like, hey guys, I'm so-and-so, blah, blah. And this is Dennis. He's just started up his carpet cleaning business. And, I don't want to get in trouble for advertising for myself and another company. So I just wanted to make sure.
No. Yeah. Co-op advertising is good and fair, and we often do it with our lenders. The lenders will help pay for us to place advertising because their name's in the ad and our name's in the ad. And this guy might do that too. Say, I'll help you produce those cards you're going to send out.
Okay.
And now I don't think you could say, I'll offer you a free carpet cleaning if you list with me.
Right. Okay.
That's the kind of practice that, you're offering an enticement that's not universal. I mean, you'd have to offer a carpet cleaning to everyone you send a postcard to. I don't think you want to do that.
Right. No.
So,
Okay.
Right. But doing the co-op, in fact, that's a good segue because I was going to cover today the marketing and advertising webinar that Broker Risk Management is doing on Monday at 9:30. I sent a link out in my email this morning. I'll send it again out on Monday morning. But they're going to have this guy, first of all, for marketing purposes, they're going to have this marketer. His name is Doug Manfill. He's a creative thinker, a powerful negotiator, and beloved counselor to his clients. He directs a team of talented professionals who are client-driven, and they meet all challenges head-on and leads to real success on the client's behalf. So anyway, he sounds like a good marketer. And so we'll learn some stuff just about positive and good marketing from him. And, you could ask him if you attend the webinar and they have a Q&A, you could ask him, what do you think about co-op marketing with other vendors, carpet cleaners,
Right.
so
Okay.
get his opinion on it.
Sounds
Then
good.
the other part that Bill and Shannon are going to be covering are the DRE regulations around advertising. And DRE has very specific and lengthy rules around what we can put in our advertising. It's important that we know what they are. Now, one of our agents had a website of her own, and she put in there a creative name of some sort. So she was identifying herself with basically a DBA, you're something realtor, well, you can't use a DBA unless it's registered with the Department of Real Estate, and there's a procedure to register it. So somewhere, somehow, the DRE became aware of this. They contacted us as her broker. They contacted her, and she ended up with a citation and a fine, a $250 fine, even though as soon as she learned about it, she corrected it. And my hand was slapped for not, supervising her website. Like I'm going to supervise all 200 of you guys' websites, right? But anyway, I committed to and sending out information about the DRE advertising requirements, which I did at the time. And I said, please look these over, read these, and make sure you understand them. Now, whether you did or not, how am I going to know? But so this is another opportunity for you to learn about the DRE advertising guidelines and rules. And so you don't get, and I don't get slapped again because, I don't want to fine. And you don't get slapped in a fine. Now, we're going to appeal her fine as a first-time violation. At least I've sent that up to Shannon, who deals with DRE violations, and see if we can't get that reversed so she doesn't have to pay a fine. But that's where that is. Eric, you have your hand up.
Well, drilling in on the commission referral issue for a moment.
Yes.
Once upon a time, I had a client in Hong Kong that wanted to refer me a friend of hers, and they were going to refer me business, and they wanted a referral. And I did the research, and I thought at the time that if it was a cash transaction and if it was a commercial property, that a referral was acceptable, as long as it was not a federally insured loan. And it's somehow the federally insured loan was the trigger And
Mhm.
the cash transaction made it exempt and the commercial property made it exempt. Is that still reasonably true?
Yeah, I think you're right. It is a RESPA violation, that issue of making a referral to someone who's unlicensed. And I don't believe it's a direct DRE regulation that we can. Yeah, we can't pay an unlicensed person can't earn a commission. You know, we can't give them a referral like we would give another licensed agent. So we can't pay that off the top from the company. Now, what you do after after you've gotten paid is what you do. But and I don't think it's a RESPA violation, which is undisclosed to the parties of the transaction when it is a cash transaction and not subject to a federal loan. So I think you're right there. And Curtis had an interesting point in the chat that he believes the IRS only allows $25 deduction for real estate closing gifts. So that may be true. I'm not sure. If I were running to deduct that $500 I was going to give my friend for referring me a client, I would either I would check with my CPA or risk that the IRS isn't going to find out about it. Isn't going to find it in your Schedule C. But anyway, that's a good point, Curtis. Thanks for sharing. Okay, we covered the marketing. The last thing I have is about reports and disclosures, and I think I covered this before because I think it was Yvonne's deal, but I'll just do it again. We're representing a seller. The seller specifically asked and put in the contract that they not be given buyers inspection reports. I don't know what the logic was, but that's the request, and it was agreed to by all parties. By the buyer and the seller. But then again, the buyer's agent sent the forms to us, the reports to us, even though there was a stipulation in the contract that they wouldn't share them. So now we're in possession of them. What do we do? Well, and it's Bill's old saying, if we got it, we got to give it. So we got it. We didn't want it, but we got it. So we got to turn it over. We got to review it. No, Sharon, you're asking if I'm using the computer speaker. No, I'm not. I've got a microphone. Is it working all right? Okay. Anyway, so we and
Sorry.
no worries. Once we have it, we've got to review it. We have to read it, and we got to provide it to our seller, even though he didn't want to get it. So now he can refuse to read them or whatever he wants to do. But if that buyer fell out, I hope he didn't, Ivana. I hope it closed. It did. Okay, good. Okay. Well, if that buyer had fallen out, then we'd have this obligation of giving them to future prospects or buyers. So that was probably the problem there. Okay, so we got it, we give it. Now, this is an interesting one. So we're working on a transaction where it's out of our area. So we aren't familiar with local information, okay? Local stuff that's going around the community. We aren't even familiar with the newspapers in that community that have articles and so forth. But what happened was our client entered into a contract to lease with a tenant based on the information that was given to us by the tenant and the tenant's agent and broker. Well, we learned very quickly within a day or two that there was a big community ruckus about this tenant's business. And it was detrimental to the reputation of the seller to, or the owner of the property, to have this tenant's business relocate in that spot. So, you know, and this was information that was publicly known in the area, but not to our owner client, because they weren't in the area. Now, the broker representing the tenant wrote the following to us. Be advised that our policy is not to pass on any false or unsubstantiated rumors about our clients. So what do you think about that? He's saying we don't pass on any false or unsubstantiated rumors about our clients. Well, I say, well, that's a bunch of hogwash. You got to disclose everything you know. I mean, you can say, hey, this is a rumor, and we don't believe it's true, but this is what we heard from other people. You know, remember Bill's other thing is disclose. And what are the three? It's disclaim. Well, I remember those two. You disclose it and then you disclaim it. Oh, attribute. Okay, you disclose the information. Okay, there's this rumor out there. You attribute it to someone. It came from Joe Blow. And then you disclaim, I don't know anything more about it, but here's the information. Okay, that's what we have to do. So we got a rumor from the neighbor that the motorcycles go down the street in the middle of the night, but we never experienced them. What do we got to do? We got to say to our buyer, hey, we have this information that motorcycles go down the street in the middle of the night and make a lot of noise. And it comes from the neighbor and I don't know anything more about it. So we do have to disclose rumors that we hear of, and determining whether the rumor is false or true. Boy, how are you going to do that? You know,
Gary, was that sentence from an attorney or from an agent?
that's from the broker on the other side. So it's certainly not the practice our attorneys would encourage us to have, and or that I would encourage any of you to have. If you have information, you share it. If you got it, you give it. And use those.
Does that apply to hearsay type? The neighbor said this.
If it's a material fact that could influence the value or desirability of the property, that's the definition. Now, in this case, the landlord decided this business in our location is not desirable. This is going to reflect badly on my local reputation. So we actually had to unwind that transaction and get rid of it, which we did by mutual accord, because neither the tenant nor the tenant's agent broker disclosed to us this information, which was derogatory. So, yeah, that would apply to rumor, hearsay. Again, use those three terms: disclose, attribute, and disclaim. Okay. Okay. Curtis says it's always a struggle to give that extra information, but you'll sleep better knowing that you did. Okay, fair enough. Well, that's all I've got. And Heather's got a few things for you this morning. Are there any other questions on something I didn't cover that you want to ask about while we're all here?
Gary, I have a couple of questions going back to the gift, kind of offshoots from that. Should I ask them now, or should I hold off and ask them at the thing on Monday?
Why don't you ask them now, and we'll see if we want to upgrade it to Bill's opinion.
Okay, great. I know that we can't, or the gifts I understood what you said. I have seen people advertise that they donate, and I haven't seen it lately, but that they donate a certain amount to a charity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that, can that be done? Or I mean, I
Yeah.
haven't seen that lately, so I was thinking maybe a change, but.
Yeah, no, actually, it's an interesting point. And you'll probably become aware of it, but there is a company out there, a mortgage company, who has a program which they're calling affiliates or members. So you got to kind of join this organization, and the organization commits to giving a gift to a charity as part of the transaction, and also a credit to the buyer. So, and they've run it by RESPA, and it's all clear and so forth. And because they've set it up as a membership kind of deal, it passes DRE and RESPA requirements. So as long as you're doing that properly and under the proper legal guidelines, it will work. And there is a vendor in the area, and one of our agents is actually going to sign up with that vendor because they want to give a piece of their commission to a specific charity from each sale. And that's all well and good. But how do you do that and stay legal? So that's why this framework that this mortgage company has set up allows us to do that.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Cool.
Didn't-
And then, one other thing with that, I've seen folks, other agents, I assume this is fine, like they'll send out of area agents saying, if you refer to me, I'll pay you a 30% referral. That's fine, because it's
Agent to agent, yeah, agent to agent is always.
right, and they're
Yeah.
licensed. I didn't think about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but just following up there, you couldn't just advertise without the proper framework. You couldn't just advertise, list with me and I will give $500 to your favorite charity. That doesn't kind of meet the guidelines. Okay, this other method does.
Okay.
I
Cool.
guess I don't quite understand why it does, because it really is advertising.
I'd have to look further into. I mean, we signed an agreement that was pretty specific and had all kinds of provisos in it, and are told, and our attorneys verified that this was all kosher with RESPA and DRE. So it's just the way it's set up and established. It's an offer that can be made in that format. We'll learn more. We'll be learning more about it, because I think that lender is going to be made more prominent in the community.
Okay.
Okay. Heather, I'll turn it over to you. You are a co-host, so you can share your screen.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
I had one other comment too about what came up. The idea that we can only write off $25 gifts or what have you. I asked my accountant or my tax accountant about that, and she said that is accurate. But she did say that if you give someone kind of a way around it is if you give someone something that is branded, has your contact information, and is permanent, then it's marketing, not a gift. So
Okay.
of course, I don't know, talk to your accountant, because that's just what mine told me, but that was one thing. So I often think when I'm thinking about gifts of something like that, that's going to stick around and, I can brand. So anyways, that
Yeah,
might be.
you remember that guy who dealt with high-end cutlery, knives and stuff,
Right.
and he would put your name and our logo and your license number on the blade of the knife. So you give them a
That's Cutco.
whatever.
I was
You
gonna
give
say
them-
Cutco.
Yeah.
You give them a $300 knife, but it's branded to you, so it's a marketing deduction. You're right.
Exactly. So that's one way to look.
That's a good idea.
if you're trying to do, and, you know, and it sticks around instead of giving them food or, you know, something that's just going to be gone in a week anyways. So, okay, so I have just a few things I wanted to point out to you guys on ZipForms. Let me make sure I'm on the right screen. Oh, of course, I got signed out while I was. It signs me out far too quickly, so it'll just take a second here. There's screen. I feel a little bit like I go over. I need to turn my ringer off. I go over a lot of things on ZipForms kind of over and over, but it is, you know, when you haven't done something in a while, you forget how to do it. Right? You're like, oh, I haven't set up a template in 6 months, and you kind of forget how to do things. So that is why I like to come back to ZipForms, because it is something we use really frequently. All right, can you guys see, is ZipForms up on your screen? Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Referring back to that, if you are trying to do something on ZipForms and you're thinking, what did Heather say? How do I find that? There are a couple of resources right here on ZipForms for you, which are really, really helpful. When you're in several of these tabs up here on the top, for instance, if we go into transactions, and then if you can't remember how to do, like, create a new transaction, or what all the steps are, you can go over on the top right. See, there's this little circle with a question mark in it. If you click on that, it gives you a few options. Learning Center, which we'll go into in a minute. And then it gives you this in-app guided help. And this is pretty cool. You just click on that, and then you can see here on the bottom right what it does. It says guided help, and then here there's a little plus, and it says creating a new transaction. So on this screen, this is one of the guided actions that you can get walked through if you forget how to do it. Hopefully no one forgets how to create a new transaction, because we can be doing lots of these, right? But if there is something, you can just click on that. And then what it does is it walks you through all those steps. So it pops up here. The first thing is click new. And then, you know, it actually shows you all the steps you're going to walk through. This has 2 of 6, you know, it has 6 different steps. And so you can do this quick and, you know, a little refresher anytime you need it. I'm going to go ahead and close that. The one that there is one, which I think this is the one that we forget a lot, is the templates, because we don't do them that often. So if you go into the template screen, forms and checklists, and then you click on that little circle with the question mark in it, nothing happens. Okay, did it earlier. Why isn't it doing it? Oh, there we go. Sorry, in-app guided help. And then it's going to give you a whole thing on creating a new template. So it's really nice. It's going to walk you through 8 steps for creating a template. So if it's 9 o'clock at night or it's on the weekend and you're like, I can't remember how to do it, and of course that's when you want to do it, just go into this in-app guide and it will walk you through, and it's got lots of good tips in it. So that's a great resource. Also up there, another resource for you in this little circle with the question mark is the Learning Center. When you check on the Learning Center, here's another great thing. If you don't remember how to do something, and I do this all the time, you know, it's really common if it's something you haven't done in a while. Like, for instance, the electronic signatures is new, you know, it's newer right now. If you haven't done it a ton, you might forget a piece of it. So there's all these different topics on the left-hand side: building a transaction, document management, forms and data, transaction management, and then advanced stuff. So say you're wanting to, you know, you're not remembering how to do the electronic signatures that they've changed. You can just click on that. And there's all of these, there's videos on all of them, and they're all like 3 to 5 minutes. They're not long. They're not going to take you an hour. So it's really nice. A lot of their resources, like if you just go to YouTube, or there's other ways you can access their videos. A lot of them are like 45 minutes to an hour, you know, and I never have that time. Well, of course, this is just going to spend forever, but it does give you, it just gives you these really great 3 to 5 minute little videos that are gonna remind you. And I just, I'll go through those. I might pause and go over and open the right screen, or I take a couple little notes so that I remember how to do it. It's not working right now, but I've never had that happen before. So it might be just because we're on Zoom. At the bottom of each of those videos there's other like related topics as well. How to send an e-sign pack, more about digital ink, which isn't even a thing anymore. So this is obviously a little dated. These are going to take you off-site over to YouTube, and they tend to be the longer ones. So I tend to stick with the ones, I'm going to close this out. I tend to stick, these I find are really quick and useful. So don't forget that those are there. If you don't remember how to do something, it's in this little circle with the question mark. Any questions on that? All right, pretty straightforward, right? Okay, I'm going now to go into transactions and show you, highlight a couple of things about moving around in there. I can't decipher my own notes about what I wanted to tell you guys. Like, what is that? Oh, when you create a new transaction, I guess I didn't need to do that. Oh gosh, everything's going to be stalling. Anyways, we'll give it just a second here. I don't know why it's all stalled out here. I'm going to try turning off my video. So that sometimes that makes things go more quickly. All right, I'm still here. You can hear me, but sometimes when I turn that off, I can do things better. When you go to start a new transaction, let's say you're going to do a new listing. And so the property is not on the, oh, it's interesting. It's not going to offer it to me. Well, so when you're doing a listing, the property is not on the MLS, or maybe you're doing a offer for an off-market listing. Let's see if it's going to come up on here. It's not. I don't know why it's not coming up today. If you ever have this option right here, it says when you create the transaction where it says ZipForm Record Connect, this will pull in, if you check on this and you have the address in here, it will pull, oh, maybe it's because I don't have an address here yet. Okay, let's see. I'm going to do my listing, 304 Orchard. Oh, that's not the property address spot. Well, it's still not letting me do it. But let me just tell you what it does, because usually this will come up. All right, when this is highlighted, if you check on this, what it does is it will pull information about the property into your transaction. So even if it's not in the MLS yet, it'll often pull in the APN number, it'll pull in, it sometimes even pulls in bedrooms and baths and all, all sorts of different data. So you don't have to go and manually enter it. So that's kind of a newer feature. I don't know why it's not working today.
You have to click the MLS Connect button, Heather.
So MLS Connect is when it's active on the MLS, or so when it's an active listing, then you collect, you click that, you put in the MLS number, and then so like if you're writing an offer, that's how I always do it, because then it brings the listing agent, all that information over. But when it's not active on the MLS, when you do the ZipForm Record Connect, it still brings over some good info.
Oh, so it should be populating by itself. I think Curtis said in the name, you need to put a name.
And maybe the state and zip code, I don't know.
Yeah, it might be just that okay, let me see if I actually put everything in, right? Curtis would know because
there it is.
There you go.
Oh, you got it. Yeah.
Curtis was right. Look at that. All right. So anyways, when you set up your transaction, utilize this if it's not an active listing. If it's an active listing, that MLS Connect is really nice. You just you click on it, you put in the MLS ID number, include a property photo, and then you click find, and it will populate everything for you.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks, Curtis. So yeah, don't forget
see.
about the Form Record Connect. What's that?
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. And then when you're in the transactions, page, which it's still not coming out for some reason. Well, yeah, okay, you actually can see it. So even there should be all my transactions listed here. They're not showing up yet, but I can continue going because what I wanted to show you is this feature here is filters, search, and sort. You know, once you've got a number of transactions here, sometimes you need to go back and find an older transaction, or you started 1 month ago and now they want to list. So you want to find something. I've looked in here and not even been able to, like, oh, what's that address, you know, and I only remember something about it. So there's different ways you can filter this out so you can find what you need. Filters is a great one. You can say, oh, I only want, you know, closed transactions that were purchases and were residential. Now, the way this is set up is if it's any one of these three things, then it will show up once you apply it. All right, so if it's closed or a purchase or a residential and I apply it, then it's gonna reorganize all my closed purchases. Now, to get that back to normal, you just go back to filters, and then on the top left is clear all filters. So there you go, and then you click apply, and then it just goes back to whatever the typical sorting is. On the right-hand side here is sort, and that is, so I typically have it most recent because I want to see right away the things that I'm just doing right now, right? But if you ever want to go in and have it alphabetized by the name or the closing date or the date you created or the oldest, you can change that sorting order. So that's pretty nice. Now, search is great. But I don't know why it's dropping down coffee, dog, cat food. This was some random thing. But maybe you don't remember you only remember the street name, or you only remember even that it was an avenue. Let's see if anything comes up if I hit avenue. All right, here are there's 4 transactions I've done that the road was an avenue. So it's pretty handy if you're trying to find something that you can't quite remember all the details on. Yeah, that is everything I wanted to show you guys. Just easier way, way to take care of your transactions so you can find everything you need. I was also going to show you guys just a reminder on RPR, the Realtor Property Resource. Are any of you guys using that? Do any of you guys
have been.
You have? Okay.
I have a question about that when you're done. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I was gonna I don't usually go there from here. Let's see. When you're on I never get there from here. I always go there from Barris, so I'm not even sure how it's gonna work. But let me go. Everything's just taking too long. The Realtor Property Resource is great. They have what's called a seller's report. You can do a property search there and find out all sorts of great information about a property. It's one of the first places that I go when I have someone call me about a potential listing, because there is lots of good information there. And if I ever have, when you have someone call you, it's not liking it, kind of at the last minute, and they want you to come over and look at their house, and they're like, oh yeah, I want to know what it's worth, and can you come over right now? Well, I hate to go unprepared, right? I like to have some information, and so I'll pop into RPR. So this is how I usually access RPR. This is that second page on Barris. Right here is your access to RPR. It's Realtor Property Resource. It's a free data source for us realtors. And if I ever just need really quick information on a property, I will pull up that property. So I just had somebody call me about this one, 1656 Chapman Way. I don't know I haven't been there, I haven't seen it, but it gives you quick information about it. And then there's a really nice thing, I already created it, but what you can do right here is create report. You click on that and it gives you a bunch of options. I don't know why this always comes up for me. A property report, you can take a look here. It's 28 pages. It's got a lot of information about the property. And this seller's report, which is 81 pages, which is overkill, frankly. But it's, if you need something really quick, it has a ton of comps in it. It's got some good photos. And so you can see, I can actually show it to you here real quick. I just did this for somebody. Supposed to download the report. I can show, so you guys can just take a quick peek at what this is. So I just like this for that, like quick, lots of information really quick that I'm going to take with me when I go see someone's house kind of at the last minute. You know, it's got an AVM on it, what they decide they think it's worth, got a ton of information, the home facts, you can check, ask if they are, you know, if they're accurate. And this is, I often will take this and not even give it to the person, but make notes on it about like, oh no, they said it's only 1,800 or they said it's 2,400 square feet, what have you.
Heather, would these things only come up on active listings or can you use
No.
that? This is for anything that's in the MLS.
Not even MLS. This, you can search all over, I think all over California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So
You can go search all over the country if you want.
is it the country? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's go
Yeah.
further.
Yeah, great. So anyways, that's, you know, there's some really good info that you can, you know, great talking points for when you're talking to somebody about their home, the mortgage records. So take the time, take a look at this. I know we're at time, so I don't want to hold you guys over, but it does have lots of great info. So
Yeah, try it on your house, your own house or your neighbor's house or something, which is not on the MLS and see what you come up with.
yeah.
See if it could be useful to you.
I have a
Yeah.
question if you
Yeah.
have a second. Okay, so I've been using the RPR for house size checking out in Clear Lake. And I was working with Jessica Spencer. She said the CMAs were not correct on that RPR.
Mhm.
And I just want to know how accurate the RPR is. I noticed that some bedrooms and baths weren't lining up with what was actually there on that property and actually another property too. And then also I want to know if the taxes are correct and the deed names are correct.
So they take, my understanding is they take everything from public records, just like when you go look at tax records, you go look at anything else. That's where I believe that the information comes from. And so, as we know, often tax records are wrong. They'll have added on a house, on a bedroom, or they'll do, you know, different things. So that's why I always take it in that first page. I ask folks, like, your records show, where is it here? Home facts. Okay, your records show, you know, you've got 4 bedrooms and 3 baths, but I only see 3 or I see 5, or, you know, because it's only as good as the
Right.
data that's out there. So. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I'm sure, and you could go up that first page, scroll up just a minute. You see that big disclaimer at the bottom of that first page?
What does
Um,
it say?
Yeah, well, I'm sure it just says, you know, this information is gathered from sources that we haven't verified and, you know, and all that good stuff. So no, don't rely upon it. It's just a guideline from public information and yeah, it's
It's a rough report. Yeah.
I like Heather's practice of verifying the information. That's great.
Yeah, and it's a great way to judge, like, how, you know, I use it to kind of take a pulse on my clients. Like, are they, you know, are they aware of their home? How much information do they have? How detail oriented those are, so that you know better how to help them as you go through the transaction. You know, some people are like, no, my house is 1786 square feet. And others are like, no, I think we have 3 bedrooms. So
Okay, thank you.
yeah, you bet.
Okay, well, thanks, Heather. That's good stuff. Appreciate your,
Heather, I had a question.
Yeah,
Sometimes when I'm in transaction and I'm in documents and I want to pull out a specific document, I find that it's been added to and piggybacked to the package.
mhm.
And I have a hard time printing the individual TDS or something because I've checked a box somewhere and it's added it to the listing agreement and I can't separate it.
Yeah, so there, I often ask my TC to do it. But when I am, when I want to do it myself, there's actually a way in ZipForms to do it. It creates it into a PDF and you can split the PDF apart. Can I tell you my quick way that I do it is I print the document as a PDF and
Can
only
you go to
print.
transaction and show me?
So let me just show you on this. Say I only want to, say I wanted to separate out the last, for whatever random reason, I don't know, whatever pages. Let me find some good pages. Say I just wanted to print this, or, I wanted the next 2 pages to be separated. So what I do is I just go up here on the top right to print when I have the document open. And then I go, no, I don't want all these pages. So I go to pages instead of all, I hit custom. And then you can either put the numbers in. Say, I just want it to be, I scroll down here with the pages and okay, I want it to be, I just need pages 14 through 16. All right. So I'm going to type that in and then it verifies for me which those pages are. Okay, yeah, those are the right pages. And then instead of an actual printer, I go save as PDF. All right, and then when I save it, it just saves those 3 pages separate from the rest of the document. I click save, and then it asks me to save it as whatever name, whatever I want to save it as. That's my little cheat sheet way to do it.
Okay, well, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, you can go into ZipForms. I've actually never done that. I can show you guys how to do it next time if you guys would like, but yeah, I'd have to review it. I don't remember. So, because I just do it this way because it's right here. It makes it
Sometimes it puts different documents together into one file, and sometimes it doesn't and keeps them separate.
Yeah,
But I'll work on it, I guess.
yeah. Well, I can go over that next week if you guys want.
Okay,
sounds like a good topic.
Okay, I will do that. Separate PDFs and ZipForms. Got it.
Okay, great. All right, we've reached time, so thanks everybody for chiming in. Any last minute things that are urgent we need to talk about? Okay, I plan to be here next week and have a great week ahead. Remember that to register in advance for that webinar on Monday, I've in my last email, there was a link to pre-register, and then they'll send you a link to join the meeting. Okay. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend. See you Monday.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.